Hey everybody, welcome back. I got another Lefty conversion video. I've got this right-handed Strat here. It's a Affinity Strat. Not a bad guitar. It's got a humbucker in it. Kind of cool, but it's a righty, so I can't play it. So let's make it a lefty. This build's not really going to be much different than the one that I just completed that was 6 or 7 episodes long. So I'm not going to go as in-depth with this one. My goal with this is to just knock it out, get it done. I'm going to use a lot of the same parts, the same procedures, and I'm not really doing much different for this build that I did on the other one that I did a lot more in-depth. So if you want to see some of this stuff a little bit more in-depth, please go back and catch some of that in my other videos. So much like the last build, first thing I'm going to do is move my strap buttons. I'm going to drill a new hole and then screw in the new button. Just like the last build, I'm using Fender Schaller strap locks. They're my favorite style. And I'll remove the other strap button on the other side. For this one, I'm not worried about filling the holes because I'm not painting the body. Maybe later down the road if it really bugs me. For now, we're just going to roll with that hole there. And I'll change out the strap button on the other side. Now I'll take the tension off the strings. I'll cut them off. I'll remove the string trees and the tuners. A T-handle works really good for removing tuners. It makes it really fast. This is a homemade one. Set those aside. Now I need to get the nut out of there. Now on the last guitar, the nut basically fell out. This one's in there really good. So I'm going to take a utility knife and just score right along the edge of the nut. I want to cut the finish that may be holding the nut in because I don't want it to chip the fretboard when I pop that nut out of there. Just get in with a pair of pliers, wiggle it, and there we go. There's our nut. And like the last build, I'm going to refinish this headstock. So I'm going to sand it all down just with some Scotch-Brite. All I want to do is take these logos off. Now I'll tape off the headstock. I've covered the rest of the guitar with a rag, and now I'm just going to spray it with some clear polyurethane. Somebody asked me on the last build, hey, why do you take the time to remove the logos off the guitar? Why do you want those off of there? And for me, it's just a personal preference. See, it's got the Fender logos and stuff on there, and if I was playing it kind of unmodified, maybe I wouldn't care so much, but to me it's more of a custom build, and I just don't want to have the logos on there, really. I do have a Fender Strat, an actual Lefty one that is pretty much stock. It's an early 90s, made in Japan. It's a really nice guitar, and I haven't done anything to that. It's got all the logos, everything's on there. But for these, to me, if I was playing it right-handed as they were designed to be, I probably wouldn't worry about it. But since I'm completely converting it, I just feel better taking those logos off and playing it that way. It's kind of a more custom thing to me. It's just a personal preference of mine, and some of you may agree, some of you may disagree, but that's your preference, and my preference is just to take them off of there. With the headstock dry and untaped, I can now put everything back on. I'll start with the tuners. These tuners are a little bit better than the tuners on the last conversion. That's one thing I still want to change on the other guitar that I did convert. I'm not real happy with the tuners on that. Not going to tighten those down just yet. I'll go ahead and install the new string trees. And I'm using the Graphtec string trees. Here's a little trick when installing the 6-in-line tuners. Take a straight edge and hold on the back side of the tuners, and that way you'll be able to line everything up to make sure none of them are crooked, and then snug them down. Okay, so now that I've got the tuners and the string trees on, I was going to go ahead and install the nut. But I think, as we all know, all Strats are not created equal. I ordered the same left-handed nut that I used on the last build, and it fit perfect. However, the nut that I ordered is not the same as the nut that I took out. I did not measure this one first. I guess that was a big mistake. I assumed that it was the same, so I'd ordered the exact same part number and everything. Kind of unfortunate. I'm gonna have to remeasure the nut that I took out and order a new Graphtec nut. Thankfully, I believe I can use this on one of my other guitars. It does not have a Graphtec nut, and I hope the dimensions are the same. I will use this in place on that guitar. So I will not be able to complete the build right now like I was hoping to today. I'll have to order a new nut, but it's not going to stop me. We're going to keep going. There's plenty other stuff we can do. Next up, I'm going to start removing some more parts off of this guitar, starting with the rear trim cover. To get it ready for paint, I'm just going to take my Scotch-Brite pad and scuff it up. This may or may not hold up well. If it doesn't hold up well, I'm not real worried about it. Now I'm going to remove these factory string saddles and replace them with a set of Graphtec saddles. This is one thing I should have done right from the beginning on the last build, but I thought I could get away with using the saddles that were on there, but immediately when I started playing it, I started breaking strings, and I hardly ever break strings when I play, so I really know that those saddles on that other guitar were really not good. So I ended up switching them to a set of these Graphtec saddles as well, so I thought I'd just go ahead and do it right away on this guitar. While it's off, I want to make sure that these screws are tight. And I'll reinstall the new saddles. In case you can't tell, I'm a fan of Graphtec products. I do notice a nice improvement in tuning stability. Since I ran into that trouble with the nut not being the right size, I hope everything is okay with these saddles, because they are the same part number also that I ordered for the last guitar. Although these, I did measure the string spacing and seem to be the same string spacing as the last one. And it looks like the spacing is going to be just fine on these. I'm not sure why that nut was so much different. Now I'll go ahead and pull the pick guard off. I kind of like that this has a humbucker already in it. It's kind of cool. I'm not going to reuse that humbucker. Got another one to put in there in place. The only problem with this pick guard is this corner right here is broken off. Okay. Now with the pick guard removed, I can clip these wires because they're going to be too short for me to reuse. And that gets the pick guard out of the way. I'm going to remove this output jack. There we go. Push this ground wire back through. So now, before I install the copper foil shielding tape in the control cavity, I need to mark the positioning of my controls, which is going to be a coil split switch and the volume pot, just like on the last build. I thought I had them in a good spot, locating them in this area, but I still hit them once in a while with my arm when I really get playing kind of hard. So again, I've got just a small switch for the coil split, and I think I'm going to put right about here. I'm trying to get them up as far out of the way as I can. So I'm just gonna make a mark. And the volume pot, I think, will go somewhere in here. Hopefully that'll keep everything up out of the way a little better than on the last one. So now I'll drill the holes in the pick guard. The reason I'm drilling them with the pick guard on is because I know I'm going to have to recess the wood underneath there. So by drilling all the way through the pick guard into the wood, that's going to mark exactly where I need to recess that. And now I need to recess that out to fit the pots and the switch and make a channel for the wiring to run into. I'm going to use a Forstner bit in my drill press to drill these recesses. Now I'm just going to use the same Forstner bit and just make a really crude slot here to route the wires in. Okay, before we go any farther, I can already hear some people saying, "Ah, you're ruining your guitar, you've drilled it all up, now it's never going to be the same." That's fine, I'm okay with that. It's my guitar, and you know, this is just how I'm going to do it. So I guess the solution would be, if you don't want to drill holes in your guitar, don't drill holes in it. That's fine. It doesn't matter to me which way you want to do your modifications, because they're your modifications. This is the way I want to do it, and I'm going to make it happen. I really don't think removing a little bit of wood is going to make that much difference. Now maybe if you're a purist and you're all about keeping everything original and you've got a really high-end expensive guitar, yeah, I wouldn't be drilling holes in it if this wasn't a really expensive guitar. I would leave it alone. But this is a very inexpensive guitar, and I'm really not worried about what a few little ounces of wood is going to do to the tone. I'm making it work for me, and if you're doing modifications, go ahead and make it work for you. They're modifications. There's really no right or wrong. You're free to do it whichever way you want to do. So before you comment with a nasty comment or something, just think about that. It's your modifications, and this is the way I'm doing it, and we'll see how it turns out. And if it ruins it, well, I guess I ruined it. Oh well. Life goes on. So let's get back to it. So now I'm installing copper foil shielding tape again, just like I did again on the last build. Some people feel that this is really not necessary, and well, it may not be, but even when I have the other guitar in single coil mode, it is extremely quiet. I don't have any buzz, no hum. It's just really, really quiet. So I don't know how much of that to attribute to the shielding that I did, but I'm going to go ahead and do it on this guitar. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it on this video. I'm just probably just going to jump ahead and to the finished product here. If you do want to see more about the foil shielding, go ahead and watch it in the other videos. I covered it pretty good in one of the sections. I think it was part 2. It's a really easy process. It's really inexpensive. The foil shielding tape is not hard to work with. It's real easy. Just cut the pieces, stick it in there. Make sure you have it wrap over the edges so that it makes contact with the pick guard. That way everything is encapsulated in shielding material, and you have a nice silent guitar. Make sure everything's grounded. This is the same kind of foil tape that I used on the other build with the electrically conductive adhesive. So all you need to worry about is making sure that your pieces overlap and your conductivity will be throughout the control cavity. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and we will jump to the next step. Now I've got all the foil shielding installed. I'm going to go ahead and start putting some of this pick guard together. I'm going to start by peeling back a little bit of this protective film. It's over the top of the pick guard. And I'll mount the volume pot. For the pickup, I'm using the same model Seymour Duncan Invader pickup that I used in the other one. I was going to use a Seymour Duncan distortion pickup because I wanted to try that, but I'm so impressed by how that Invader sounds that I just had to use it again. So I've got some other guitars that maybe I'll get the chance to put a distortion in there and try that, but I'm just really liking this Invader. I can see while some people say that it's too hot, it's really a hot pickup. You can get a little bit of overdrive right off the guitar. Sometimes it sounds like it's so hot that it wants to break up a little bit, depending on your amp settings. But overall, it sounds really good. And when you go into the coil split, it's nice and clean. You don't have any buzz or noise. I really like the pickup. So that is the reason I'm using it again. Now, this was the trickiest part of installing this thing last time. So I am kind of hoping that now that I've done it once, it might not be so bad. Doesn't look that way. Like I mentioned in the last video, I'm sure there's a trick. I don't know it, and nobody has told me otherwise. I'm gonna get this pickup mounted in here and be right back. Well, now you can see kind of what it's gonna look like. I think it's gonna look pretty cool. I think I'm gonna stop this video here, and we'll continue the rest in the second part, especially since I need to order that new nut. I gotta wait for that to come in, and then I'll get everything wired up. It's all ready to wire right now. I've got all the shielding and everything's done. It's ready to wire. So we'll do that in the next video. We'll get it wired up, we'll get the nut in there, string it up, and get it set up and play it. So hopefully only 2 parts on this one. Again, I was shooting for 1, but that neck really set me back, and I'm starting to run out of time for the day. It's taking a little bit longer than I thought. So, second episode coming up as soon as I get the nut in. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Share it with your friends, share it wherever you can. I'd really appreciate it. To make sure you don't miss the next part to this one, please subscribe to my channel. Again, I appreciate your support, and thanks a lot for watching.